note. So every note has a couple of different elements in it. We've got the flat part on the outside here, which is your tone field. We've got this inside part here that dips down, curves down. That's our dimple. And then we have this little edge here as it starts to curve in, this little shoulder as it starts to curve into the dimple. And it's usually this shoulder here that I'm aiming for in my strike. Every handpan player is different. It might feel different for you. You might prefer a different sound. Everybody teaches in a different way. But for me, the sweet spot is this part here as it starts to curve into the dimple right there. And the part of my finger that I use is this squishy soft part at the very edge, at the very tip of my finger, using it like a mallet, if you like. And my approach towards the note, I'm not always aiming for like this exact spot here. As I go around, it might be more difficult depending on the angle that I'm coming at, right? So instead, I'm just aiming for wherever the closest shoulder down into the dimple is. That way, I don't have to move my hand in strange shapes. I just go wherever is closest, aiming for that shoulder into the dimple. As well, in terms of fingers and thumbs, what I tend to do is use my thumb for the first few notes, just because that way I don't have to chicken wing and get my elbows out here like this. I just bring my hands back and then I rotate at the wrist. Yeah, so when I'm playing with my thumbs here, it's almost like the opening of a doorknob. I'm rotating at the wrist and I'm playing with this bony part of my thumb here. I'm not aiming for the fleshy part in this case, because otherwise that would be quite tricky to get to. So I'm rotating and I'm still aiming for the same spot of the note, but this time with that thumb rotation. But I don't play with my thumbs all the way up the scale, because here I have to have a little bit of extra stretch in order to reach that spot. So in order to avoid overstretching and straining my shoulders, I actually strike with my longest finger, basically, sometimes my index as well. So I use my index and my middle for these higher notes for the most part. That means it just gives me a little bit of extra reach instead of having to hunch forward a little bit to get that thumb strike. Striking with my finger there. So that's just a quick rundown of how I'm actually striking the instrument itself. There are lots of different ways that we can strike as well. That's the one sweet spot. That's the part of the note and the method of striking that I prefer. Flat finger, using the fleshy tip, or rotating with the thumb, aiming for that curve into the dimple. But there are so many other ways that we can strike as well. Sometimes I like to curve my fingers and aim for the center of each note to get a more kind of warm, bassy sound. Or I might flatten my fingers even more and aim for the outer edge of each note to get a more slappy sound. Right? As opposed to so there are lots of different sounds that you can get out of just one note. It doesn't have to be the same every time. So yeah, I hope that's helpful. I'm also striking with a nice loose wrist as I play, and whichever finger is striking, I tend to gently raise it before whipping down. So there's kind of a little bit of this whipping motion happening as I strike down onto the instrument. Not crazy so, it's coming from the wrist and the finger, but for the most part, I'm staying in this home position here just above the instrument. I'm not bringing my hands up like crazy. Keeping it down and keeping my hands as loose and relaxed as possible. I like to always remember how my hands feel when I'm just sitting here with my arms out like a zombie, right? I'm thinking about how relaxed my fingers are in their natural position, and this is my aim. This is what I'm always trying to get to, even when I'm striking and playing the instrument. Keeping those fingers nice and relaxed as I move around, as opposed to engaged and tense as I move around, right? That's going to make things much more tiring, much more quickly. So I like to keep it as relaxed as possible. I do have another video on this. I have a whole playlist on YouTube that's called Completely New to Handpan, Start Here, and you can find it on my channel.